with at the SBIR 500 last time. Thank you very much, dear friends. Thank you very much for being with us today, discussing this theme. Let's applaud dear guests. Let's applaud the experts. We see representatives of 4 funds on the same stage at the same time. As business angel, I am very successful. I'm very lucky today. We're speaking about the exits. This is a huge opportunity today. In venture community, we say that the entrepreneur is the main character, the hero. We should support him and help him. But today we're defending investors. I mean, we are going to speak about what strategy venture funds can see today when the number of exits go down over the recent 5 years. And I would suggest that we start. Are you ready? Very good. So, colleagues, who's going to share your observations? What do you see over the recent year or 18 months with exits for your funds? Okay, let me start. Colleagues, good afternoon. So, in general, the exits theme is not very much discussed at venture events, and that's great that there is such session. One thing is to spend money, the other thing is to get them back. So, what do we see over the recent couple of years, 2023, 24, and beginning of 25, at the market of exits? Obviously, the main option of exit for venture investor is selling to strategists. Well, there is pre-IPO, but yes, there are appetites among the strategists. There are corporations, including public ones, with clear-cut motivation for non-organic growth, but the key question is in assessment. So our point is that it is possible to make an exit, but a successful exit is a challenge indeed. But to exit successfully, you have to enter successfully. That's the point. And thinking about the assets into which you entered before, that's also a question. Can I add? Yes, sure. So starting 2022, the dynamics of IPO and the exits have reduced, and there are cycles. We are not macroeconomists to professionally discuss it, but we can actually see that venture market is also the derivative of the exchange market, and this market depends on the key rates, not only here in Russia, but across the world. The key rates are growing across the world. It means that the window of opportunities to exit of the best IPO windows. I mean, this window is closed, and it means that companies stay longer artificially, stay longer to wait for better situation to make an exit. And it means that venture funds, managing venture funds, cannot tackle the key task, because the key task of any manager is to ensure the distribution, DPI for invested capital. No DPI, it's more challenging to make fundraising, and that's the cycle we see. So what will happen next? We're not macroeconomists, but there are grounds to think that the era of super cheap money, helicopter money, has ended. And probably at the end of the large debt cycle we are now in. But the venture industry has some specific its own cycle. It is very simple. In tough times, it creates strong teams that manage to make good performance with tough situation. But this is something interesting for the venture industry, and this creates good times. That's why teams are working, are performing, and I think they can succeed and make interesting things. I want to clarify, the situation is clear, but what do you do anything special over the recent year to impact the situation somehow? I cannot reduce the key rate, I understand that, but what are the efforts on my side? My portfolio is quite active. My talent is to find surviving founders, and when I select, actually, 80% might die, but 80% in my portfolio survived, and the majority are bootstrapping, and some of them are cash positive now. So what does not die gets stronger. That's why we support and we help and discuss with founders what the scenarios are for exiting non-venture story, and that's the things we are discussing. Very good. Thank you very much, Lyosha. Good afternoon, colleagues. We're looking at the market in a wider sense than a typical fund or an investor, because we are an investment bank. We help to attract financing into various companies, and we work with all categories of investors. And I would like to show a different different perspective. We're living in a situation where exits are in abundance around, a lot of exits, but the venture market has rebuilt itself over the recent years in a dramatic manner, and the structure of exits has changed. Now we do not see classes of investors, at least from statistics and mass deals. They cease to exist. Communities of business angels, there are fewer today, but to substitute them, we see new instruments, new formats of organizing the exits, for instance, through retail investors, through pre-IPO instruments. We are very well aware of. And corporations also, who previously took quite conservative position, are now the key source of exits for venture investors and tech companies. And also from time to time, we see regular waves of IPOs. They are not, there are not many in terms of statistics, but with every new step in development of the market, the number of successful stories, successful IPOs that made the issuers and organizers happy, but shareholders as well. And I think we'll see more such cases. And my key point is that lower than the horizon line, under the water, where the majority of analysts and analytical reports and journalists do not look, there is much activities in there. We see tens of new cases in our sphere. That's why actually we do not see the whole market. That's why investment scenario where you can make the exit with cash out and fully sell a company to someone, now this goes, the trend is upwards, I think. This is a renaissance. Well, this is a very optimistic point indeed. I think we should applaud. But I would like to clarify, despite the fact that you see a positive trend, this fluctuation in terms of exits, this development can be explained by macroeconomic factors, or this is a thing happening every couple of years. I've been in the market for 25 years now. For me, this is a cyclical story. Every 7 years, something happens, and the venture winter starts. And it means that the venture model, classic model, when a company is developing and attracting financing and is focusing on growth of indicators and but not financial parameters. But this venture module is broken for a couple of years. Now it is broken. Now the death rate among startups is so high. Activity of business angels is low. Seed stages and seed funds are having negative expectations. All large funds, M&A departments, family offices, all active investors in the market are sticking to very pragmatic dividend model. Well, the structure is broken down, but we're all optimists, and that's why we're all here working in venture in our market. We believe that at the low of the market, and obviously we are somewhere at the bottom, I don't think we will see worse news. But the growth is coming in 3, 4, 5, 6 years. We should not trade the timing. But important thing is that the model will restore and recover and will become again part of this global structure of building progress and ensuring new technologies through entrepreneurs and their innovative companies. Thank you. Thank you very much. And now the question to our international guests. Do you see the same trends? You know, Alexey just mentioned that in 25 years, every 5 years, you see ups and downs in activities in the market and the number of exits. What is it in your opinion?
Yes, thank you. And sorry for everyone, I'm going to speak in English.
Most of us understand.
Yes. So I see today's market, I mean, there's always, historical, rounds. So there's always up and downs. And every time it's like when down happens, there's always a certain aspects into it. So for this time, there's a high interest rate and also tariff and the geopolitical issues rising. So this uncertainty is giving the market, the exit market, the hard time. So, but anyways, it'll go up. But I feel like there's a airport, right? There's airport, there's runways, but it's just cloudy. So that's what the market now, the exit market are looking for now. And yeah, so I think it'll go up, but with the complexity of the today's current situation, there are a bit of different strategies to exit. Yeah, so I think we can talk about that later. Yeah, but I see that as a repeatable trend.
Ну, то есть в целом ситуация как будто бы...
Actually, the situation sort of goes ups and downs internationally, so locally. So, okay, dear listeners, well, now a question to you. What do you think? We think that mostly we have in the audience business angels and venture funds. What do you think? This phenomenon of reduced number of deals, of M&A deals, is it a cyclical process? And we will see this QR code, and we will be waiting for your answers on the screen. Please share your views, because it is very valuable for us. Your feedback is very, well, I unfortunately will not see the answers. Okay, great.
Отлично.
Excellent. Whether we think that reduced activity related to cyclicity. Well, yes, well, Alexey, so once in 5 years, we will see ups and downs. Alexey, what's the year we're in out of the 5? I was carefully said that we should not trade in timing, because we should split cyclicity of everything and justification of every decline. And the reason of what's going on now is all those effects and geopolitical turbulence. Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, let's applaud, because you voted excellently. Thank you. I'm happy that we have such a great solidarity among the audience and the experts on the stage. Let's continue talking about investment strategy for venture funds. Let's talk about the way of IPO. What happens now with this access to IPO deals? I can start. Well, actually, we saw a boom of average size companies in 2023-24 before the rates came up, and a big number of companies came to the market. Well, but they fell down almost after the rates came up. There's a lot of liquidity and the money on deposits and the big number of other things. And then financial instruments number is limited, because the access to Western market is limited. Well, when the rates go down, there will be an inflow of money to real estate, private investments, and IPO. The question is about the readiness as to who will do what and how ready will be. We can see in the market that lots of companies are looking at that opportunity, planning to their placement in a couple of years horizon. Importantly, that the experience is it's not giant placements. It's just about a size of 2 billion up to 5 billion with a target bill, which differs very much of 2022. Well, it's less, of course. And on the other hand, it's not a very small placement. 500 million rubles you can do, and the last IPO bullet point is that companies which are planning, we do have such companies which are planning, we don't see the IPO as a liquidity thing. It's just like a stage which will allow us in a couple of years after the IPO to earn to the shareholders and all of us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sergei, would you add? Maybe there are some alternatives for you. Well, speaking about IPO, look, the story is as follows. I am convinced that Russia has a historical chance to get a good stock market. One of the factors of our lack of competitiveness the fact is because our stock market is small, underdeveloped, fewer tickets and lots of money. That's why we are having this chance in front of us, because we have this ruble mass effect closed in Russia. There's nowhere to go for it, and if the rate goes down, and it is going down slowly, it will have to land somewhere, and the classical answer as to where to land for the rate is the stock market. And that is why whether the chance will be materialized depends on the responsibility of companies and investment bankers, teams, and asset managers of funds which are preparing them now. Now it's the process of making up the queue, and it's a huge mechanism. Lots of people involved, organizers, advisors, experts, which are involved in ratings, and a lot. So if we do this job in a good thing, well, I mean, what's good about that? Those who invested in IPO did earn money and not lose them. That's good. That's good job. Well, and I think that we should use this chance. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a certain scenario of creating stock market. It's your own way of stock market, or are we copying someone else's models? You know, in 2022, I had an idea is to look at Iran when the sanctions fell. What grew there was the Iranian stock market at the time. Well, I would give another example. Iran is, well, a very closed economy, but South Africa, beginning of the 90s, when they had sanctions, quite a big stock market emerged at the background of this geopolitical tensity. So that's why I'm very much against pre-IPO, what lots of people are running to do. Because classical pre-IPO means when a very respected and very professional IPO maker comes in and fine-tune a small number of homework tasks. Well, a lot of manual work involved, but when a team with bad performance goes into wider market to raise smaller bills, well, it's not pre-IPO, it's something different. Don't let us call it this way. Okay, IPO we optimistically discussing now. So, of course, for the dynamism and the psychological swinging, well, our stock market, well, I agree absolutely with Sergei, and the venture, of course, is a derivative from a stock market. Of course, we should follow the processes, all of us, which seemingly are very far away from us in the big money spheres. Well, our stock market turned out to be in the bud. Well, if previously, once in several years, we had bigger issues like Gazprom, Lukoil, Yandex, and that was the field of very big companies, which did find their institutional private investors, and we lacked this, and to diversify the economy and to provide competition of issues inside the industries was not enough. And the first attempt of massive entry to the stock market we saw using the instrument at the time by smaller size companies like 3, 5, 10 billion rubles of sales, which is not very big in the scale of the economy. And we could see that the structure of preparation of IPO and for those companies to go public, well, it was it had childish diseases, and we could see that they were, for the investors, they were not very successful. A good IPO is not the one which raised at the upper scale the whole location, but which gave investors an opportunity to earn. Statistically, there were just very few of them at the time. So the structure of preparation of issues, the selection, that sort of failed, which led to losses to investors, at least now. Those are the companies, of course, they are successful, they're leaders, of course, they will come up to their good sales, but it will take more time than expected. At the same time, it's clear enough that IPO now is an institution, is at the very beginning. It's reshuffling, it's reburning, and maybe in some years, the feeling of our companies with money of retail through brokerages, through instruments of pre-IPO, which I hope will cure and become good enough for the term. I think this is going to be one of the main competitors for the funds and other corporations and their venture departments from the point of view of raising financing into a good, promising company. And companies will choose whether to go to a corporation, institute of development, or a fund, or do a certain round. I don't know how it will call. It will be called open subscription, closed subscription, pre-IPO, aiming at retail investors using the brokerage's infrastructure. Thank you very much. Alexey, let me clarify. You said, IPO is a priority area for you, or are you looking for some alternatives for exits? For us as an investment bank, we render services to prepare IPO and help companies to go there. But mathematically, our main bread is earned, well, because the market is made up in that. The main exits go through, looking at the M&A, through corporations, private, public, industrial groups. The main liquidity and the demand for technological companies is there, not in the stock market, which is in a long it's pressured by taxes, high rates, and we don't know when it will be, it will start growing. And buyback, it's an emergency scenario. It's not a plan B, it's a plan C or D. Sergei, Pavel, what about you? It seems to me that MBO, many, I think, especially asset management company investing into private equity, using the money of their investors, they put this mechanism in the deal. It's not venture, it's a quasi-debt, something like equity debt, and especially at mature deals, we can see that happening. And quite difficult to compete to just a private equity fund when you have this kind of option. The valuation might be very different, but the source of there may be not source of highly probable if there will be nothing to buy out from. So this MBO customized thing. We would treat it carefully, I would say. A lot of skepticism. Sergei, would you add anything about MBO? What's your attitude to IPO or MBO? No, it's management buyout. It's an instrument from a Russian venture sorrow, it's quasi bonds. Let's look globally. Is there any priority international investors still focusing on IPO or looking for alternatives?
So yes, IPO is definitely, but as everyone knows, IPO needs a expertise and it needs a lot of preparation. So actually, there are also another way of exiting is obviously the M&A. But yes, of course, private equities, they are into technologies, but also corporates are also a very good exit partner. So once they meet their requirement to grow their business in terms of the technology, in terms of new market expansions, definitely buying a startup is definitely one of the way. But also secondary market is also growing really quickly.
Спасибо. Мы обязательно...
Thank you very much. I would add, recently we did a research, looked up at the number globally. Per $1 of M&A gives 10 private equity dollars. Private equity always is bigger than IPO, but in Russia it was the other way around. We don't have private equity, but the venture market, 10 or 15 billion. Well, we can ignore the number until we have a big private equity venture with independent management, asset management, and there will not be any qualified IPO. Well, I would add that globally the trend to transform venture capital into private equity, it is clearly seen before 2022 even. If you look at the licenses obtained by bigger important like Sequoia and others, they use the IYAE license with a big number of opportunities in investments in different classes of assets, no regulatory pressure in secondary deals. They can own private companies. Well, I mean, public companies. Well, my fund, where I work in with global ventures, just obtained a full license, and with absolute which is absolute indicator of and very important milestone, because that's great for us. That means very different opportunities to open up for us. Venture capital with 10 years of life, with a necessity to sell in 10 years, especially a good company if you found it. Well, usually it takes 10 years for a company to do something interesting with it and to sell it. Well, it doesn't give you an opportunity to make your LP happy and provide a lot of KPIs. Lots of difficulties there. The LPs have different horizons. You can have objective conflict of interest, and you have to provide quality of decision making during the well, a lot of things. Well, Sergei, you are today you hint some regulatory changes. Whose initiative should be there? Well, market players, yes, there. I don't know. I don't know the Russian regulation. Maybe Pavel would add more. Colleagues, let's get back a little bit. Let's finalize our IPO discussion and how this scenario is a priority or not, though our stage experts agreed that that's the reality today. Let's again use your telephones to load the QR code on the screen. Please share your opinion as to the IPO alternatives, management buyouts or SPAC deals or whatever. Let's compare the opinion of the audience with the opinions of our speakers. While you are voting, I had a thought. Maybe to recap, well, globally, the statistics shows that the majority of the deals, the 80–90% of the venture deals, are closed in M&A, not IPO. But if you, but the income of investors and the main money earned, which inspires so much, are earned at IPO, because the exit income and other multipliers of public companies, they are many times higher. That is why, rather, our company statistically would be bought by a corporation. But of course, everybody's striving for dragging it down to public placement. So interesting, the split of the distribution of answers. Well, MBO and SPAC are almost absent here. Well, leading strategists. Well, thank you very much for your recapping the short discussion. If we sort of M&A deals, let's talk about corporate market.
Для того, чтобы exit был удачным,
For the exit to be successful, as Pavel said, important is not the deal, but what are the criteria you're using to look at your potential assets for them to be more ready for the M&A deal. Well, please share your experience. We invest usually in B2B. It's complicated technologies, not only software, but some in B2B segments operating mostly in enterprise.
They have the sales cycles and large complicated clients. And exiting is into some of the clients or partners, integrators, strategic integrators that develop value chain together with a product our company can offer. What do we see among factors not everyone is considering? Competitors of your B2B startup or mature B2B company in our market are not other vendors of solutions, but the client who is developing the in-house development. And in terms of penetration of vendors' solutions, 10% is external market, 90% is in-house banking development. And this is your competitor who can buy you potentially. And we should consider that. And the strategy of entering you as a client, as supplier of solutions and potentially selling company should be synchronized. You sell the resources of the technology. They can take the team for X3. The thing is that these internal competitors, internal developers can also sign you for proof of concept, of course, because to have a deal of buying a tech company by another tech company, proof should come from an M&A director, IT director, and others. In B2B and B2C, the field is empty. But there are segments where startups have more flexibility and they can run faster and make interesting solutions. Only a factor which is rarely discussed today, and we like it, a regulatory market driver that can offer a solution. The time is that budgets are not enough and people are cautious, but the business critical, something that makes your business critical, they buy it. If it is nice to have, it can be postponed for 6 months or a year. This is classic import substitution. No, this is not about import substitution because they are inside the client, they fight against it. What is an example here? In mining industry, we had a deal. They supply comprehensive solutions in radar, analyzing the potential of collapsing the sides of the pit. The Rostechnadzor says that all companies should be equipped with such devices. They should be part of IT infrastructure of mining companies, and information online should always be monitored. That's one of the products you can go and sell because it's really useful and because there are requirements. Your pit can be closed if you do not have it, and your business is stopped. A non-market competitive advantage. And how can entrepreneurs impact that? Just keep up with the time, keep up with your industry. That's why we believe in startups where founders are those from the industry who for 10 to 15 years who have been working in corporations or somewhere else and understand all the pains and problems. So the sectoral industrial expertise. Thank you. On your side, any new criteria for selecting the projects? I know you have a very complicated scoring model. A disclaimer here first, not to be attacked by entrepreneurs. I understand that not all of you are investors, but from July 2022, I am not investing in the new targets and my criteria of selection have changed significantly. I work with my portfolio and I understand that we can congratulate you with that. Yes, sure. So, okay. Sergei has made a very important decision. Indeed, let's support. So it happened in July 2022. 100 portfolios is too much. Okay, give us good advice. No, let me tell you something. For you not to think I'm a pensioner, I'm a member of investment committee of co-founders of Angels Deck. Angels who have died, as they say. No, they haven't died. Angels Deck, I went like that before the SMO, and then they recovered. You are not with us yet. We are investing into sweet spots, Russian-speaking teams working in the global market. And we have a small internal fund. We support the deals and we syndicate into deals. Our small fund can participate. Yes, this is a seed stage, Russian-speaking founders, and the portfolio historically is around 100 companies. And many, since we started it in 2021, many of them are very serious. We calculated unicorns. We have 3 or 4 by equity rounds, proved by equity rounds. This is our portfolio. So your portfolio is global vision and ambitions in the international market. I am a multi-focused person. I am an entrepreneur myself. I have a lot of things around. I mean, for your young fund, you just mentioned the priority is global ambitions. Yes, that's right, global ambition, but we have been in this market. We just rebuilt the processes. We had also mixed investments before, but now it's just investments into Russian-speaking founders. For them, it's hard to increase the checks because of the geopolitical storm. At early stages, they invest into those who they know, and then you work with attraction. But the niche stays, and I think that we are making a very important function now. In this niche, we see business angels do the same. They support. Alexey, on your side, what are the criteria? Team, technology, vision, non-competitive advantages, or what? Probably the general vector can be articulated like this. We left the seed stage, early stages, and became as an investment bank, and the investment bank is managing my money, investing and looking into opportunities for our clients, companies who are at the crossroads of venture and private equity. Those who put aside product market fit or problems in the team, not raised first investments, or if raised, then they are stolen. So no risks like that now. And the company is growing around 30 to 40% year on year, and it has a revenue that shows that they found their market. Such revenue is around 500 million rubles per year, but in our understanding, it starts sometimes a bit lower, 200, 300 million rubles. If the company earns this money, it means it is valuable. Its economy is okay, and it can show good EBITDA, not paying dividends, but anyway, EBITDA. And they are leaders in their niche. Not that they are monopolists, but they should be at least among top 3, top 4 in their segment. Because everything below that, because the segment is obviously quite narrow, and the market has shrunk. Everything lower than top 5 are those with no value in the eyes of investors. So growing, profitable companies having top stages in top places in their segment, tech companies are priorities for us, not because we like it this way, but because they are liquid in terms of potential buyers. Corporations, what do they look at? They buy when this company is covering a stack, a product line in their ecosystem. This company is complementary product to them. Another typical reason to buy a company is increasing their own efficiency. Companies do not have enough money today. It's challenging times, and everyone is thinking about better quality of internal processes. If this technology product solution can help a company to save money and make things faster and throw away old solutions and substitute them with something more effective, then this is one of the key drivers for buying such company. And number 3, why companies buy and why we select companies is exit to external new markets. Russia is preparing to a geopolitical shift now, and the possible return of some international players. And also we're going to the BRICS countries, Asian countries, new segments, not just in product-wise, but geography-wise. All companies are getting larger, and they are merging with other companies to have better positions in new segments that can be attacked either by colleagues from the country, or having ambitions to go beyond our country into friendly regions. So basing on these three paradigms that are considered by M&As. First of all, we select our portfolio company. Very good, but sounds like nothing has changed in 10 years. Just a list of priority countries. I'm saying that everything is cyclical. Nothing has changed. So, from my observation, okay, the cycle is longer. Son, you also select projects to prepare for future deals. Are there any criteria you are looking at specifically from the standpoint of the promising nature of this company?
You mean in terms of the investment?
И как инвестиции, и для...
Both investments and preparing for investments through acceleration process you are making.
Okay, through our acceleration programs or investments criteria especially, what we look at is especially traction is very important. So even though in the seed stage, right? I mean, traction doesn't always mean revenue. So, but what we really want to see is whether what you are building is being loved by the clients or the users. So that can be seen through different metrics. So, for instance, if you are B2B or B2C, there are metrics that you can show to investors that you are being loved by the users, your early adopters, I would say. So for instance, if it's B2B, it can be pilots with corporates, but that pilots, it's not only the number of pilots, right? But also after the pilot, are they paying, are they making a contract with you, commercial contracts? Even though it's small, it's very important. Because after the pilot, if they implement somehow, then it's a signal that you are building a solution that solving a pain point, which is value, right? So if you don't provide value, there's no this signal. So you have to get this signal. And if you are B2C, it can be like not just new users, right? But it's a growth matters. And also, if let's say you are an app, if you have 1 million user, but if you have 10,000 yearly active users, that's very bad. So you need to have consistent users as well. So that traction part is one of the most important things that we see and also globally investors see.
Звучит тоже очень традиционно.
Yes, it sounds also quite traditional. Pilots and traction, not exactly revenue, but anyway, development. And it's great that we actually stick to international standards. And can you see that from exits, we now discuss the entrances? So to exit properly, you first should enter properly.
What I see is we are going back to the basic. So there was a lot of, bubbles with the fancy words, but now the business is business. Yeah. So I think we're going back to the basic. Yeah.
Спасибо, мне кажется, это такое...
Thank you very much. I think this is a point that should be applauded to the priorities, the quality of the product and the content. And the time of bubbles has passed, obviously. So, colleagues, let's look at our situation now, where Russian venture market is now through the eyes of the futurologists. I remember that not everyone is advocating the position, but let's have a look at it. Where we are now gives us additional opportunities, or it limits us and calls for, as Sergei mentioned, calls for always be in search for instruments to overcome problems. How do you see today? Is it a situation of opportunities or limitations and deficit? Well, we are in a different situation. From one hand, the commercial opportunities changed for many companies, especially in B2B segment. The market has grown. Previously, international large vendors operator, and now they left. We can cover the niches, but we need to offer a good product the clients got used to. You need money for that, and we can invest. And that's the first point. There is market in place now. And for complicated B2B solutions, we see requests from other countries who want to build their own technological sovereignty in cyber security and so on. But the model that those who tried to do it. When we create a team in Russia and repack it for the United States, and then we make an arbitrage and assessment reselling in the next round in California, this model doesn't work today or works poorly because the paradigm is different and there are opportunities and limitations in place, both.
Пытаюсь
I try to measure the temperature. This is mostly a positive answer or a neutral or a cautious one. Historically, we believe that you should make proper business, and companies sacrificing millions X can make business that can be that can be sustainable if a new scenario comes in. But we have new scenarios every year. That's why we believe in such approach. If we're speaking about the future and prospects, I would split the whole market of venture and private equity into two parts. First, small deals of seeds. We believe in them, and we believe that now in this market, you sell quickly with good X, selling companies for hundreds million rubles. Corporations have budgets for that, and there are clear-cut mechanisms, and the decisions are made quite quickly. For 3 billion, selling for 3 billion to a corporation, it is too complicated. It is a year or 18 months. You have to have policy for this, and a more mature company should look into private equity models mostly and be able to generate dividend streams and be sustainable. But small startups with their limitations, not 1000x, but 10x, you can do it in small startups. But it should be a different model with very active involvement of investors into management process, acceleration, and M&A assistance. Pavel, you covered it all, I think. Do you have anything to add? Yes, I would add. In your question, there is if I may, I would clarify. In Russia, the situation is both about deficit and limitations and opportunities, and these things are interrelated. All traders know that a good deal is done when you buy when the market is bleeding. In Russia now, the venture industry has been underdeveloped, and it was small, but now that's the situation we're seeing around. What is the point? Underdevelopment of the scale of the deals and the market and the time this industry is operating. That's number one. Number two, not enough institutional players. I seek for investments in B2C, and there are none, actually. I was approached by a new fund. I never knew them before. I will not tell you the name, but they asked for B2C projects. And I was surprised, actually. You are the only one approaching me with that. Where are you coming from? I thought you were not existing, but they exist. Institutional, professional teams. There are few around. What does it mean? It means that every team, as Kamaflow, for instance, that is operating in this area and doing things, is in a very good environment, despite the problems with exits. But the problems with exits is another specificity of the market, because companies, buying companies, corporations, there are few again, and super mega players who can be counted with fingers of two hands, not more than that, not hundreds of such companies. You cannot make a competitive deal, you cannot get a good exit as a result. And let's add what we have already discussed before, underdeveloped market and just emerging professional private equity that is represented by Alexey with his story. So problems and deficits and opportunities are around, and they all act simultaneously. Thank you very much. And let me get back to Pavel. Am I right saying that according to the recent research, it was just published in September, your fund became #1 in the number of deals? We are among top 3. Yes. So is it a typical activity for you, comparing against previous periods, or is it regular for you? In 2022, we made the largest number of deals in the market. It was surprising because many companies stopped their activities, but we historically invested into Russia, and that's why not much has changed for us. And this year, investors depend on the cycles of funds in their activities, and we launched a large fund for 10 billion rubles this year, and we're making deals from it now. And when a new fund is out, or funds, the activity is growing, and that's quite logical. And the task of every manager is to make it in a way that the cycles are smoother. So one fund goes to post-invest period, is also compensated by the funds who are investing in active stages. So you have to have several funds under management on various stages and the infrastructure around them. So now you're in the field of opportunities, obviously. Alexey, what about your fund? Now we are just launching a large fund with Finnam, and that's why mostly I am operating with the amount of deals we're arranging as an investment bank. But the question is not about me. I can speak about how beautiful we are, but I don't think it's relevant for the session. Our question is about the situation in the country. Where are we in the field of opportunities or challenges? So since
Well, it was articulated, so maybe I would go the other way. Every one of us, once I looked up about the 90s and read, I thought, well, if I were there at the time, I would thrive on that. But I think I was sort of lost. No, I was not, actually. When bigger companies, internet companies, I was selling them, well, abroad even. But the question is, idea is different. Suddenly, we found ourselves in the similar 90s, but without gangsters, in greenhouse conditions, huge demand, small business, big corporations, just people. They are used to the products which somehow disappeared. Well, we were sort of used to something, but suddenly we were deprived of that. And in this respect, for the entrepreneurs and investors, we're in a very unique condition, and which will not be seen by any other generations. And this creates oceans of opportunities, which, well, it's shameful not to utilize it, because our grandchildren would ask us, Father, Mother, what did you do when everything had lost Russia and everybody needed that? That's, what about investors? Yes, for instance, Oracle and others, they left, but still everybody needs it. Of course, you should support and invest in that, and that's exactly what we're doing. That's our clients and our business. That's exactly what we're doing, nothing else. Speaking about visionary views as to what will happen next, I believe strongly that in some difficult tension countries and geopolitical blocs will not be as long as that. There will be another détente or ease of tension, and our country will emerge with a stack of sovereign technologies, with sober world which would realize that everything is much more difficult than it seemed to them, and the BRICS countries and southern regions will take from our country what the country has accumulated during those times of trial technologically, and our companies, our competitive global will be able to share their technologies, their findings, their products, and respectively, our country will find itself among the technological leaders, actively exporting these innovative solutions. Only to friendly countries, but I think there will be more and more such countries around us. So this global geopolitical thing will, of course, impact our country economically and politically, and all of us as investors and entrepreneurs. And I suggest looking through this focus at whatever's going around. So you started to recap our dialogue. Okay, at this positive note, let's stay. Colleagues, what do you think? What's in store for us in the coming 2 to 3 years? And our international guest opinion, very interesting. Exit-wise and investment strategy for bigger funds. What's in store for us in the nearest future?
So in the near future, actually, I see the markets are reopening. So a lot of things went down, but actually it's going up. So I mean, it's a capitalism, right? So capitalism always starts with people's greed. So greed will stack up, definitely. So like for Russian founders, startups, now geopolitically it's a bit hard, but the situation will ease. I think what they have to do is to focus on their current business and to make it appealing for the international players. But also even now, right, there are Russian-friendly countries as well. So those countries, especially also the friendly countries around Russia, like CIS regions, other countries can also be a good exit partners as well. So that's, yeah, I can tell.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, colleagues. You. Just a couple of bullet points to what will happen. First, well, globally, private equity is funded by MPF and all. We know in insurance and others, we practically don't have it all. And private equity we used to have, mostly in beginning of 2000, Yandex, Ozon, what they did, they were funded by foreign institutional investors. They left, but the CLP and all, they were foreign guys. So they left. Besides some institutional investors in Russia, FPE, so nothing more. Without appearance of institutionals, which would give money for longer term, there will be no market. The only thing, well, physical entities, of course. And in the coming 2 to 3 years, the domination with lower rates will be physicals or brokers or management companies, both in stock market and in the private equity market through such investment sites, pre-IPOs and other opportunities, or even participation, involvement in the funds of all this. Well, pre-IPO, I'm afraid of this mention. Well, keeping silent. Okay, let's speak about the future prospects, about the good things in store for us. Well, whatever doesn't die becomes stronger. So this, well, we are in a very poor environment. I'm a microbiologist by profession, and we had an assignment to grow very strong bacteria. You put it on the Petri cup with, and there are very few of them, but those who grew, they are sort of beasts. They don't even need any food because they're so strong. I think where we are now is this experiment, this cycle makes the venture industry so sound and healthy and robust. Starting to speak about, to think about EBITDA business and less time spent to visit and attend pitch sessions and asking more clients as to what they need and what they will pay money for. So I think that's very useful, and the number and this quantity will go to quality. So do pitches to your client and let the client bring you money. Alexey, I think you already have sort of finalized, but maybe you have something else to add. Well, to finish, I would say that, yes, possibly I would repeat that we are currently in a very unique situation, and we should utilize them. We should invest to those who can we invest and launch businesses, those who are capable of doing it. And jointly, we will be able to make our immature, infantile stock market, to transform it into strong economy we'll be proud of, will be using, and will feed everything around like Sber City. Look, it's sort of derivative from a strong economy, which is growing into us thanks to our joint effort. Thank you very much. Something to add?
No, but actually, I think everyone mentioned that a lot of investors and players left Russia. But since we are an operator of a 500 Spare 500 program, and actually there's an opportunity for startups that are rising now, because the players who played like SAS or something, like foreign international players who came before, after they left, there are opportunities like literally out there. So they can just capture that. They can just, replace easily and quickly. And they can dominate the market from Russia to CIS region to other places. So I hope people capture that moment and to become an international players.
Спасибо, спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, colleagues. We are sort of finishing the session. I would like maybe to recap as to what we discussed. And my aftertaste is that both investors and entrepreneurs are very viable business units, adaptable to any even difficult conditions, which became sort of good for us, and the venture market has adapted to. And we think that it's a time of opportunities, and both entrepreneurs and the funds think that this opportunity to be captured, and they did. And the number of deals that we can see in the angels deals and others. And what's in store for us, I think, is our own way to go to create the stock market and the deep integration with the countries we are currently working with. What failed in Russia is to reproduce Silicon Valley. That's exactly the thing.